Maxi, please start with the video. The broadcast is live. We're live. We're live. We're beginning the hashtag IDeyWithHer series. Hello, today's woman. Hello, those who love today's woman. Hello, everyone. Yes, the conversation is live on Facebook. And we're going to share snippets from the conversation. We are also live on YouTube. Today's woman as a brand has existed for 21 years now, since 2000. We've been more about bringing to the forefront all that concerns the woman and her family. And we've transitioned all the way from television to print. Now we're digital. We created our community very recently on Facebook, and we thought we have to bring conversations that matter to them. And for the next 13 weeks, we're going to be talking about something that's very close to a lot of hearts, but people don't like to talk about it. The difference is that nowadays, there is so much information around violence against women and girls. In the past, there wasn't enough data to showcase how bad it was. And again, it's a topic that people don't like to talk about. Like I said, not even I like to talk about it, but it's something that we can't ignore any longer. The statistics show that out of every 10 children that have been abused, 6 of them are female. The statistics are humongous. But before I get into that, I say thank you for joining us today. Thank you very much. I am here. My tech support is somewhere in Toronto, and my guest is in Abuja, and I'm here in Lagos, beaming live to you. As I bring on now, I think I have my guest in the house already. Hello, Hadiza.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. Hadiza is the coordinator for a joint initiative between the United Nations and the EU, which is called the Spotlight Initiative. Hadiza, before now, was a senior special assistant to the Vice President of Nigeria on gender and SDGs. That's the Sustainable Development Goals. She's also worked with the UK Department for International Development as component lead for a gender empowerment project called Voices for Change. They're responsible for supervising the mentoring of adolescents to become future leaders and agents of change. She is a gender consultant and a women and child's rights activist. And her life started off as a lawyer. She's a graduate of law. She has a master's degree in law. She's a member of the International Federation of Women Lawyers, Freedom of Information Coalition, Legislative Advocacy Coalition on Violence Against Women, and the Regional Director of Gender Affairs in the Nigerian Young Professionals Forum. Hadiza, what do I say? You're welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Hadiza. It's nice to be here.
Yes, you said you would even come live to the studio physically if you had to, because this is a topic that's close to your heart.
Yeah, it's something that we've been working on. I've been working personally on this for quite some time. Even while I was in the office of the Vice President, we were trying to kind of improve the response to gender-based violence. By that, I mean like when a victim or a survivor faces abuse, what happens? Where do they go to? What kind of system is in place? So strengthening that whole system and actually putting it in place and then strengthening it is something that we've been doing. And now doing the same thing under the United Nations in collaboration with the European Union and the government of Nigeria as well.
Hadiza, before we go into this conversation, just tell me, say 5 years ago, when you talk about gender-based violence, how did people respond to such conversations publicly?
I think there was some denial. Of course, people didn't even believe that it was happening. And there was a lot of blame game. People feel even if it does happen.
Yes, I think I lost Hadiza, but that's going to happen from time to time. Or was I the one that is, that's going to happen from time to time, but we depend on technology, and she's going to come back on right after she's there. If tech support is there, can we please play a video to express what she was trying to express? We have a short video, which basically is speaking to the fact that we want parents and children to begin to pledge to speak against abuse, especially abuse against women and girls. And maybe I should share some of the statistics in the meantime while we're waiting for Hadiza and to probably change her network, and we see how it goes. So if tech support is ready, let's see what we have here. Okay. Hello, everybody. We'll probably just have to start this all over again. But we're talking to Hadiza Aminu Dorayi, who is a gender consultant and a woman and child's rights activist. Now, the interesting thing about Hadiza is that she's heading right now a joint initiative between the EU and the United Nations. And that initiative is what we call the Spotlight Initiative. And they're championing the hashtag IDeyWithHer. In other words, we are all supporting every single female, especially female children, in trying to get them to speak up about gender-based violence. And also we're trying to ensure that those who perpetrate such acts are brought to book. But the important thing is to get families on board to begin to do the right things to checkmate such occurrences in the home. And sometimes statistics are what we need to make this go up. There's a pledge for parents, the pledge for children. But if we take a look at the overview, I'll just very quickly read what the overview of what's happening now. We also have the statistics to show it, that's right. Okay, an overview at what's going on around, well, if I could just pull this up a little bit closer so that we'll get to see. The number of reported cases, especially in the past year, this statistics that you're seeing pulled up here happened last year at the beginning of the COVID pandemic, right? March and April last year. The highest number of reported cases came from the Southwest. No, not from the Southwest. The highest came from Lagos, 185. And that brought up, in fact, Southwest had the highest number of reported cases. In April, there were 296 reported cases. In March, there were 91. There was a great upsurge. The Southeast, 36 cases in March. In April, 92. The Northeast, 50 cases in March. In April, 115. I mean, these statistics show that it's grown. It's gotten worse. Is it that people are reporting more, or the conditions made it, ripe for such things to happen? So I'm going to keep holding on, hoping that Hadiza will join us. We have Hadiza on the show because we want her to tell us why the Spotlight Initiative what it aims to do, why it exists, why it's making this campaign public, and what it aims to do to check the situation. But as we await that happening, I think the majority, it's important that we all know that the majority of children who experience physical, sexual, or emotional violence in childhood, they do so on multiple occasions. That's quite gory, not once. 80% of them, 80% of this violence is physical, 70% sexual violence, and 80% emotional violence. Children often experience more than one type of violence, either at the same time or at different points in their childhood. Now, over the next 13 weeks, I'm going to be bringing guests who will not only throw light on these issues, but tell us how we should respond to them and what we should do to change the narrative. And I think it starts with people knowing how to even discuss the birds and the bees. When we talk about sex education, who teaches your child? What does she know? Who do you protect her against? Who do you protect? But in this particular program, we are concerned about the women and girls. We do know that when it comes to abuse, it's not only girls, but statistics show there are more girls. Girls are significantly more likely to experience both sexual and physical violence than any other combination, while boys are more likely to experience both physical and emotional violence than other. So if we are focusing on the girls, pardon us. Yes, we are today's woman, but today's woman, doesn't live as an island. I did tell you that Hadiza would come back. Hadiza, I told you you'd be back. I know
I'm
how
sorry
difficult
about
it is. No, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay.
what
It's okay.
COVID
You're
has
just,
turned us into.
but it's good. It's good because we are saying that regardless, we
Yeah.
rise. But it would be nice for you to tell us why the spotlight, why and how the sport. We're talking about how in the past people would take it as, you're not serious, we're in denial. Are you saying now we are no longer in denial because the statistics are clear?
No, I think it's not really just the statistics. You see, it's more to do with persistence. People are keep talking. The voices are more clearer because before in the past when you begin to talk, they tell you to hush, hush, hush. Don't say anything. So, for example, if it's somebody within the household, they'll say, "Oh, you're going to spoil maybe your uncle's or your husband's name or your father's name or your brother's name or your son's name, or your son's name, you're going to spoil his name, so don't talk about it and so on." So people didn't even understand so much the context, but now because people are keep talking and they're allowed to talk and there's space for people to talk, so you understand how it happens and what leads to that and so on. So it's not just that people are in denial at that time, but people just didn't understand what was happening. And again, of course, people are people play the blame game all the time. They feel, oh, maybe she brought it upon herself, maybe she did something to if her husband, if she was raped, yeah. So I was saying that there, so many reasons why, but now I think people are more understanding what the situation is.
Okay, tell me, what does the Spotlight Initiative aim to do? That it wants its conversations to be out there for people to understand that, fine, maybe people are not playing the blame game anymore, but we need to do more, right?
Yeah. Yeah, well, I think people are understanding that it has to do with social norms and the fact that we have to change our mindset. People used to say perhaps what our parents and our grandparents were more accommodating, as women and so on. But the situation is that. Uh, they passed through a lot of the things that we passed through, but they just didn't talk. But now we're saying that today's woman does not want to take that. We want to talk. We want to take what is good for us. But for the spotlight, aside from putting, a name and a face to gender-based violence, and also creating the space for women and girls to be able to tell their stories, we're looking at strengthening systems, because there's no way that we can move forward without having an institutional kind of response to this. So if you are facing any kind of abuse, where do you go to? What services are in place for you? And these services cannot be paid services. They have to be government owned services, because most of the time victims and survivors, they don't even have resources, because they are already disenfranchised, economically as well. So they don't have the necessary resources. It's very important to have free services that is entrenched within the government system. So we try to work with the government systems to put that in place. But of course, aside from that, there are other arms of the Spotlight Initiative, such as how do we build the civil society as well, to be able to, push forward in terms of seeing areas that gaps have gaps, and how to bring that forward for addressing. We have other components like data. How do we, while responding to gender-based violence, how do we make sure that we have the right data that we need for planning purposes? We currently launched, I think the same day actually that we launched the Idea with Her campaign, we launched what we call a situation room in partnership with the Federal Ministry of Women Affairs. And the Situation Room is a data collection center where we get all the cases from the states, in one central location, and we're able to see where the violence is happening, which states, who it's been, who the victims are in terms of age, disaggregated by gender, gender, by age, by type of violence, and so on. So it's really a very comprehensive data collection tool, and that's one of the components that we are working on. So yeah,
I like the sound. I like the sound of the Situation Room. It's like everybody should know. Are you saying that this Situation Room, in collaboration with the Federal Ministry of Women's Ministry, is it going to be national?
Yes, it's a national Situation Room. It's actually a digital platform, because when we do, we have it's a collaboration with the state ministries. So the state ministries, through their child protection departments and gender departments at the state level, collect these cases that come to them in the Ministry of Women Affairs, but also have a coordination system where they meet and get the cases from civil society and other government partners like NAPDIP and so on. And then they now put it to inside the digital platform, and then and it's compiled at a federal level in the Federal Ministry of Women Affairs.
You remember you said something earlier about social and cultural norms that are some of the things that we're militating against, acceptance of the fact that abuse is going on and then being able to work. Now, you said there's a Situation Room across Nigeria. Do you see people going to report any cases? Do you see any way in which the social norms might also still be in the way? How do we deal with that?
Yeah, well, we have, you see, the Situation Room is not a place where cases are reported. It just compiles the number of all the cases reported. So when people receive reported cases, it's recorded in the Situation Room. But what we have done as well, we're working very closely with the National Human Rights Commission, and also for example, in FCT, the Social Development Secretariat, where we have strengthened the case reporting tools. So we have toll-free lines within the Human Rights Commission, and it's national as well, where cases are received. So with that now, what we have seen is actually that there is cases have reported have tripled in the past 1 year. Since during the COVID period, cases have tripled from the past reporting. So what we doing these lines is very helpful. You would think that people may not come forward, but they are. What we're even trying to do now, in collaboration still with the Human Rights Commission and the Ministry of Women Affairs, is to have a virtual response referral center, so that and this is something that we started working on during the lockdown period, because we saw that we realized really that some victims would not even be able to come to the centers to seek for help. So we're trying to see how the help can go to them, because one of the major issues that even within victims come to them to go back to even wherever they will be safe. They don't have even money to eat and so on. So sometimes it's very difficult for the victims to actually even come out.
Okay. Virtual response referral centers are available, and there's a Situation Room, and the Spotlight Initiative, like Hadiza is telling us, is working in collaboration with the National Human Rights Commission as well as the Ministry of Women Affairs across Nigeria. And I think the whole essence of having Hadiza here is for Nigerians to know that work is ongoing to ensure that
Yeah.
this whole idea
So as I was
of
saying,
abuse.
the virtual response takes the help to where they are.
Okay, takes the help to where they are. So now
Yeah.
you said something about the cases haven't tripled in the past 1 year. Do you find that alarming though? I am surprised. I thought parents were still in denial.
No, I don't find that alarming actually, because for a long time we have always known that the figures that we are working with is very conservative. You know, we have been working in 1 in 3 as the number, but we have always known that it's more than 1 in 3. We've known that it's up to at least it's up to a half. Half is even still conservative. So for us to see the tripling of cases, I am not really surprised at all. Um, uh, at all. But if you understand the psychology, you know, of violence and perpetrators, sometimes people that face violence are able to take violence because they understand the cycle. So, for example, during the lockdown, when the cycle changed completely, you know, when you have a somebody sexually abusing you, for example, he goes out, he goes away, you go out, you go to school, you go there, you know. But if you are locked up in the house with your perpetrator, it's something that you may not be able to take. You may decide, you know, you need help because it's right in your face. As a survivor, as a victim, you may reach out more than if you were even though you were facing violence, but because it was a system that you were able to understand and wrap your head around, you know, you keep taking it, feeling, okay, maybe in a few years I'm going to leave this house and so on. But when you are 24/7 locked up, you know, you decide, no, this is not going to be my life. So I am not surprised to have seen a tripling of cases during the COVID period, but but because people came out, looked for help, got help, you know, it's encouraging others to also seek help and so on. And you're also seeing on the news, you know, others that have stayed, especially during the lockdown period, where we lost, unfortunately, quite a number of women and girls due to sexual and domestic abuse. So all those coming to your face in through the social media and so on may also encourage others to actually just speak out.
So now I'm wondering though, in the long run, you know, what does this campaign seek to achieve?
Well, the Idea with Her campaign is part of a global campaign. You know, the name of the global campaign is I'm with Her, with Her
Oh,
campaign. So
mhm.
it's a platform that people can show and align with victims of gender-based violence. People can show their support to the issue and uh, put their voice. You know, people are very enraged, and the campaign gives them a platform where they can raise their hand and demand that something is done to end gender-based violence in Nigeria. So the Nigerian version of the With Her campaign is Idea with Her. And as you can see, it's green, white, green, because it's something for us that needs to relate to the Nigerian public, and we feel changing the name was very important for us. But yes, we want to achieve a space for the victims and the survivors to be able to come out and talk about their experiences and you know, encourage others to not necessarily take violence, and know that there's a way out, there's a life after violence, and there's no reason why they can continue to take this violence. But also a space to provide supporters with a platform to be able to raise their hands in support of action for ending
Okay.
gender-based violence.
So before I play the pledge, because there's a particular pledge, pledge for children, pledge for parents, the whole idea you say is to create an alignment and level of support. What would alignment and support mean? What does that mean? Does that mean when I see a child being abused, what do I do? Or how do I recognize abuse? Or all of those things? What does it mean? What does alignment mean?
Everybody has the part that they play. And of course, we have been hammering a lot on the part of the government, as I told you. And I must really say that the government has been very wonderful in providing support to the Spotlight Initiative, because whatever innovation that we have brought to the table, the government has supported and taken it up. As I just mentioned a few, like the toll-free lines and the with Human Rights Commission, SDS also, and the Ministry of Women Affairs, the Situation Room, and so on. But we know really that it doesn't even begin and it doesn't end with government. It begins and it ends with the community. There's so many laws that we have that if people do not abide by it, it's really irrelevant. So having even laws in place and so on is not the thing, because I mean, in FCT, if you take FCT, for example, people use seatbelts simply because they see law enforcement agencies. If you go to the state level, a lot of states don't enforce that necessarily. So it's not about having a law in place. With regards to society, I feel the issue of gender-based violence begins and ends in the society. I mentioned earlier, negative social norms and cultures, cultural beliefs about why women and so on need to take all those things that, are being given to them in terms of negativity and all that. But we need to know that these things are not right. Some of the things that women are expected to take, it's not right. So if you see something like that, you have to put your hand up. You have to stop it. In Lagos State, for example, we have a policy on mandatory reporting of gender-based violence, and it's something that we're trying to replicate in other schools, so that if you even see a situation of violence and abuse and you don't report that, you are also liable to face the courts and explain why you saw that and just turned the other cheek. I mean, there has to be some kind of a sanction for not speaking out and reporting cases of gender-based violence. So you need to do that. You need to encourage victims. If you're a parent, for example, you don't feel you need to create an environment where your child should be free enough to come and tell you. Most of the time, as parents, they even beat the children up if they come and say that they have been sexually abused. They feel, okay, what were you doing there? What were you wearing? I'm sure you were smiling and laughing with them. That's why this happened to you. You need to stop the blame game, stop blaming the victim. I provide the enabling environment, whether it's psychological environment or physical environment and so on, that does not make it even more difficult to victims of violence. So there's a lot that we can do. And if you see somebody behaving in a certain way, if it's advice and so on. So there's a lot of things that we can do citizens to understand that women have equal rights and need equal opportunities with men.
So, Hadiza, I'm going to take a little break because there's something that your organization, in collaboration with the United Nations and EU, has come up with, which I like. There's a workbook. There's a book that educates the children. But what I like also is the fact that there's a pledge from different people in the community, from parents, from grandparents, from counselors. And we'll try to do a little video out of that. And if my technical support is ready, I'd like them to play that. And while they are playing that, Hadiza, you're going to come back and tell me some of these social, negative, cultural, and social beliefs. You have to give examples so people will call a spade a spade. What are the things we're doing wrong? Yeah, you know what I mean? And then, because the mandatory reporting that's happening in Lagos, how do we ensure that everybody's doing that? And the third thing I would like you to comment on is what do we even call people who have experienced violence, victims or survivors? You know,
Okay.
apart from the name claim, how do
Yeah.
these things affect how we, how we decode those things? So if tech is ready, can we go with
All
a
right.
video very quickly and take a very short break? Okay, let me see if I got. Okay, we'll be up in a bit. So Hadiza, you are still live. So maybe what we're going to do is ensure that your data is getting steady too. We've calmed
Yeah.
down. Everything is steady now.
Yeah. Yeah.
So tech support, are we ready with that video? Because we need people to see what it is that they can do to amplify this message. What they can do. I can just read some of these. Okay, I'm just going to read some of these. I mean, like Hadiza said, there are laws, but those laws, how useful are they? It's an application. And again, what happens? Okay, my video is loading. Maybe Hadiza should answer that question.
Which
So
of the, you about 3 questions. So which one do you want me to start with?
okay, some of the negative, some of if our video starts, we just stop. Some of the negative cultural and social beliefs
All
that we
right.
really have to do away with. Just give me
I
3
mean,
examples.
that's I have more than 3, but let me stick to 3. You see, first of all, we have the big elephant in the room for me, which is child marriage. It's something that it's a norm. It's something that is, especially in some parts of the country, it's something that is just it is what it is, and nobody wants to even legislate against it and so on. But it's quite a negative practice. We have girls that are underage that are, getting married, having children at a very young age. I think the global best practice is that somebody should be 18 before they get married. Luckily for us, we have even the Islamic countries such as Egypt, and we now have Saudi Arabia putting a peg on age of marriage to be 18. So if we have all of these in Qatar, in Dubai, in Saudi, in Egypt, and so on, I think we shouldn't be playing the Islamic card anymore. We should align with the global best practice because simply because for me, I feel it's been abused and children are, from my understanding of the religion, young people can be betrothed, but not with sexual intercourse involved. But that's being abused, and sexuality is being introduced when you talk of ending child marriage. So I believe it needs to be ended, and it's a negative practice. So that's one. We still have issues like female genital mutilation, which is very, very unfortunate as well. It's I mean, there's absolutely no purpose for that. We see girls getting infected, even dying as a result. And sometimes they face morbidity. If they don't face mortality, they face morbidity and on a long-term effect. So, and for if you look at the rationale behind that, it's just to curb the woman and to make her not to, according to them, perhaps go
Sexual
wild,
desire.
so on, which really there's no proof, scientific basis for that as well. Yeah, so I'm trying to pick the last one
Number
here
3. Okay,
because,
okay. Why? Because I mean, the two
because
you've
I have only
given.
3. I have only 3, so I'm trying to pick the third one.
Okay, I'll give you room to do another 2. But let me play that video again so you'll see. And I'll come back to
Okay,
this question of,
all
I mean,
right,
it's a
all
good
right.
thing that you're Muslim, so you know what's going on. The examples you're giving is from your own area. Can we
Yeah.
have the videos now? Yeah. I think that's ready now. The video is just on the pledge. That's right. Go ahead. Let's see
Okay.
the pledge. Okay, I thought I was going to. That pledge is just basically telling the people I pledge to tell my parents if anything, anybody touches me carelessly, tell my parents everything. I mean, you see this, for example, let's take the issue of early marriage, right? How is somebody who's not going to school get access to this kind of information about pledging to tell their parents?
So that's why for us really it's difficult, because there's no platform for children that are not going to school, out of school children. We do have a platform for children in school, such as the Children's Parliament and also school clubs and so on. But for children that are not in school, it's quite difficult, and especially girls that are not in school, because even if you look at boys that are not in school, sometimes in the part of the world where I come from, they are mostly Almajiri boys, if they mostly that don't go to school, and then they go into some vocational training. But when they are, young and as the Almajiri children, at least you can reach them through the
Their
tutors,
leader.
so-called,
Uh-huh.
yeah, the leaders and so on. But with the girls, it's quite difficult, because they go out hawking. There's no platform, there's no association, there's no way that you can reach them with such information. So the best bet really is to reach to their parents with that information, because their parents make a lot of decisions, or their wards, they make a lot of decisions on their behalf. We work very closely with the traditional and religious leaders, so that we can get information into the society that discourages parents, and heads of households, and encourages them to make the right decisions, right? With that regard. But with regards to the girls themselves that are out of school, I think the best bet is just to keep putting the message out, like in the radio, in billboards, in posters, and so on, so that they can at least get the message and think about it. But there's a lot of influence that the parents and the heads of household have over them. They are not consulted when it comes to decisions. They are not the ones actually that are bringing the husbands, for example, when we're talking about issues of child
Child
marriage. It's
marriage.
been decided for them, and they're not consulted, and their opinion is not sought. So it's very important that the heads of household are also reached with these messages.
So, and again, you promised me two other examples. So you can go ahead. We've talked about early marriage. We talked about FGM, which is female genital mutilation, which in some way is related. And in these cases, we say most times the survivors, they are victims before they become survivors, right?
Yeah,
They have.
yeah.
So the perpetrators are often, would legislation help in that area, you think?
Yeah, I mean, one example that I can add is widowhood practices that can be quite negative. You have some people being expected to sleep with the corpse of their husbands, or even to be inherited by their husbands' brothers, and drink water, that has been used to wash the husband's corpse and so on. So it's quite, I think that is also pretty much uncalled for. Uh, a very interesting, example that I want to talk about, which was the reason why I was delaying, really, because we can talk about things like FGM and child marriage and widowhood practices. But I wanted to talk about something within the household, like within households where people don't even realize that those kind of things are, violence. And that is sometimes we have economic violence, we have psychological abuse, we have, and especially the psychological abuse. You marry a woman, you don't allow her to she was working, you ask her, you expect her to, when you're asked, does everything. It's a full-time job. It's a job that there's no public holiday, there's no weekends, and there's no salary even. Sometimes, you make that woman feel as if she's not really doing anything. You talk to her anyhow, and so on. I think the empowerment of women and encouraging women to be able to reach their full potential.
So the whole idea of
I
the I Dey With Her
think
campaign, which is basically to checkmate all
when
forms of abuse
you put
against
blocks
women and girls.
that stop her from reaching her
Okay, the network is not our friend anymore.
Nigeria, we have men in the parliament, percent
Okay.
of.
Okay, Hadiza, I think your data wants you to take a little break, but it's okay. If you can hear me, I was just trying to summarize what it is you're telling us, that the Spotlight Initiative in making the I Am With Her or I Dey
Yes,
With
I
Her
can hear you
campaign.
completely.
Okay, with her and I Dey With Her campaign is
Hi,
just to,
Hadiza.
yes. So I'm summarizing what we've just said for the benefit of those who probably just
Hi.
catching on now. The whole campaign, the whole idea with our campaign is to get the word out there. We lost her. Is to get the word out there about the need for everybody in society to align and support protection of women and girls, especially from violence, which is both physical and sexual. And she spoke earlier about some of the cultural norms that are militating against this, which includes early child marriage, widowhood practices, FGM. But she also spoke about some internal ones which people don't even think about. Violence within the home, which could be physical, emotional, and sometimes sexual as well. But the beauty about what the Spotlight Initiative is trying to achieve by championing the I Dey With Her campaign is that there are situation rooms across Nigeria now. There are virtual response centers. There are places to encourage more people to speak up when such things have abused, when such things have happened. And once people speak up, then you can solve the problem. And there's a pledge. Okay, Hadiza, you're back. I was trying to fill up. So I think what we need to do now is, fine, we know what we want government to do. If you can hear me, just raise your hand. Raise your left hand, Hadiza. Can you hear me? Okay, I can see Hadiza, but I think she's still in the process of coming back. But what I can tell, I mean, these things do happen, but I do know that for the next 13 weeks, every Sunday at 7 p.m., I'll be here talking to one person or the other about issues of violence against women and girls, because the Spotlight Initiative would like the whole of the world, if possible, but here in Nigeria, to join the campaign of the hashtag I Dey With Her. In the case there's any mishaps, please, it can be reported. We're going to scroll their contacts all over again. And we did say that the whole idea is to get everybody to align and support the idea, right? The information on Spotlight is right up on here. You can go find out how you can help. And I am not sure if we'll be able to, I'm sure somehow Hadiza has to say bye-bye to my viewers today, whatever happens. And I thought I should start from here. They need to see why is this EU and UN collaboration so determined to ensure that we all align with the hashtag I Dey With Her. And I said, I'm sure you believe that no society develops fully with only one half of its population. True?
Exactly. I think interestingly, women are now more than half of the population. We're about 52%. So officially, we're more than half of the population. So you see, the thing with the EU UN being determined, we have always been addressing the issue of gender-based violence from one aspect or the other, and by we I mean the whole world, really. Donors, individuals, governments, and so on. Take one aspect or the other and build on that. So, for example, I mean, I'm going to use an example with Lagos State. A lot has happened in Lagos State. So before this period, we had maybe laws and policies being addressed. We had services at some point being strengthened, and so on. But the EU and the UN decided, there needs to be a program where the whole spectrum is being addressed. Because if you don't coordinate and if you don't bring all pillars together, if you don't approach this from a holistic perspective, you're only going to be going round and round and round. So they put money together on the table to address it holistically, from every angle, from the issue of services, from voices, from accountability, from strengthening, awareness creation. And that's the pillar that IDeyWithHer campaign fits into. And it's taking place now together with all other things. So, for example, you have a platform like this, the IDeyWithHer campaign, where people come out and talk and express themselves. And you tell people, if there's issue of violence, report. We even talked about the issue of mandatory reporting. You make it mandatory for people to report. If you don't approach gender-based violence eradication from a holistic point of view, you would see that there are people reporting, and then there's nobody to tackle, the report. You may even have increase in reporting, and then nobody to address those issues. No services in place, and people stop reporting. Or the other way around, if you have services and you only address the issue of services, people may not even know that those services exist, and they're not going to uptake those services, and so on. But even if you do have services and you do have awareness, like the IDeyWithHer campaign and so on, you don't have legislation, for example, then you're not strengthening sustainability, because legislation is where the sustainability comes in, even after the campaign, even after the program, even after you and I, stop working on these issues. The fact that we have a law, makes it something solid that the country can abide by. And that's why we're also working on social norms and eradicating and changing of mindsets, so that gradually, it becomes very unacceptable for some of these things to be taking place, to be happening. So it really just needs to be a holistic approach. And the IDeyWithHer fits into the component of raising awareness and raising the voices.
So it's beyond raising awareness. You're taking it from beginning, catching it while it's in the bud, trying to stop it, and when it does happen, it must be reported. And when it's reported, plus the perpetrator, plus the person who's watching and didn't report, they are all liable. And then, are you working with the police? I know you're working with the human rights.
Yes, we have a component for access to justice, and that is actually the last component, because justice, as you know, delayed is justice denied. And most of the time with cases of GBV, you'll see that they're in court for long periods of time. And before now, you even see certain convictions with sentences of maybe 2 years, 3 years, for a rape of a minor that has been deformed completely for life. And you see that her perpetrator is having 2 years imprisonment, or even an option of fine. But you don't see that anymore. It's not happening, because we have been working for the past 2 years with on the component of access to justice. Interestingly, we there's not much time, but one of the things that I'm very proud of, which we did last year, was the Forensic Center. It's a DNA lab that we have put in place. It's actually the first DNA lab for gender-based violence in the whole of West Africa.
Where is it located?
It's located in Adamawa State. and it's the only one in West Africa. So what we have, one of the things we saw is that one of the things delaying justice is lack of evidence. So if we can get survivors to go in and provide their samples, the DNA can be matched with their purported.
What's the timeline for provision of samples between a rape and?
It's 24 hours.
So we need to get young girls to understand that, yes, you can just, when it happens, walk and get to some sample and you can get justice,
Yeah.
You see that happening though? You think young girls are going to be that encouraged to do that?
You can get justice with the sample. It's very easy. When it's something that we have never had in the country. So it's most of the time the first instinct is to go and wash and take a shower, and that you are destroying the evidence. But with, of course, now that we have a forensic lab, people we're trying to raise awareness on what to do when you have been raped. For example, we have tested the forensic lab, and it's in we have done the hair. We can match hair with the DNA of the perpetrator. We have done the nail, the matching of the nails, and it's also there. It's 100% match, and then we have done the semen as well. So we can do any of these three: the nails, hair, and semen. And the nails, it doesn't have to be like full nails. It's just the ingredients on the nails. I'm not a medical personnel, but there are some things that get off from your nails. So those are the things that you match. With a lot of times the hand is involved with when you're discussing cases of rape, for example. So all those things that fall off from the nails can also be matched with the DNA, as well as the hair, as well as the semen. So any one of these that you have can actually, that's a good one as well, because sometimes the perpetrators will deny that they weren't the ones.
So the least you can do is scratch them. Something will be in your nails, yank their hair, or do something. I mean, as I listen to you, that's what comes to my mind. Nobody wants to be in a rape situation. Nobody wants to be in that situation. But it is encouraging to know that if you do find yourself there, at least there can be evidence if you go and report. But in the case of reporting, is the story for another day. Why don't people report? What is the reason? I will be discussing that as we go along on this show. But I'd like to thank you, Hadiza. We've spent 50 minutes trying to get this done. And I'm sure in some of those times you dropped off. But I think the message is clear. Spotlight Initiative wants everyone to day with her. And day with her means protecting all women and girls from all forms of violence, aligning with everything that it takes to help them to be the best that they can be without thinking about protecting themselves against violence from people around them. And you did tell us that now we have a forensic center here in Nigeria, the first in West Africa. That's good to know. Nobody prays for rape, but if it does happen, at least evidence is not going to be one of the reasons that the cases went successful. So I would like you to say your final words. And again, I walk by the numbers of 3. It's a magical number. What are the 3 things you think people should go away with after listening to you today? Is hope one of them? Hadiza? If you're still with me, I want you to give me the final 3 things people must take away from listening to this conversation today. And we do have 2 pledges. We have one pledge for the kids. We've taken it. The children are pledging to always report everything to their parents. And we also have the pledge from parents somewhere in the house. Hadiza, are you still with us?
Yes, I am. I need to say goodbye.
Yes, I was asking you to give me 3 things we should take away, but you haven't spoken to me. So go ahead.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I had to. It was network challenges. So the 3 things really to take away is that first of all, women's rights are human rights, just let's keep that in mind all the time. Women's rights are human rights. I also want to say that, real men do not rape. It's a power dynamics, and you don't need to show, as a man, you don't need to show your power by subduing somebody like less than you in terms of physically and so on. So real men really do not rape. My last takeaway is speak out. When you see something, speak out. Whether it's happening to you, it's happening to somebody, out and report, because we need to change the narrative. We need to change the dynamics, and it is it's not her shame. It's the shame of the perpetrator. It's not the shame of the survivor.
Speak out. It's not your shame. It's the perpetrator's shame. It's not your fault. It's the perpetrator's fault. And there is help. Thank you very much, Hadiza, and I do appreciate you. And thank you for all those who've watched. This is going to be on our YouTube page. So, I mean, don't run away, Hadiza. Let's just go away from here quietly. We're going to put the pledge up with our music as we go away. But, it's going to be up on the YouTube page, and we're going to push it. And we have the pledge for the children again, because it's important that our kids understand why they need to speak up, regardless of what people say. Just speak up. Okay, Hadiza, thank you very much. But don't put off your video yet. I want to keep seeing your face.
You.
Yes, thank you very much. That pledge is powerful, but that's where we'll go. And from now, it's bye from me and from Hadiza.
Bye-bye. Thank you for having me.
Right. And next